Hello again, Michael Ware with the Iowa Firearms Coalition. We've got Bill Gustoff again today. We spoke with him earlier about NFA trusts and a couple of the things that you need to be considering and why you need to consider NFA trusts. We appreciate that. We can put a link to that in the video or below it in the descriptions back to that so that you guys can follow that as well. But while Bill and I were together, I wanted to cover the idea surrounding just having some future planning in general. It comes up a lot when I talk with people about their NFA trusts or their gun trusts. And then I'm disturbed to learn, and I have seen this for a lot of years, that literally 4 out of every 5 people pass. They expire, they die without any future planning. And that's, to me, is a genuine Greek tragedy. I know many, many people who have worked very hard for their stead in life. I mean, they have amassed little fortunes, whether that be with just a few zeros or lots and lots of zeros behind it. Farms, pickup trucks, houses, property, all kinds of things like that. And then to A, leave it to chance, and B, and almost more importantly, leave it to the people that are left behind to take care of in terms of dealing with the emotions associated with the loss, legal fees, that kind of thing. I just don't understand why we don't do it, other than I think people are scared to face mortality. So I want them to get past that, and I believe that this was valuable to have on our YouTube channel at Iowa Firearms Coalition, because we care about our members. We do, and we want them well kept, and you're a resource for us. Basically, the Hagenow Gustoff law firm was pivotal in helping us set up clear back to the Iowa Carry Days. You guys have represented us for years. You specifically, Bill, have worked on our account, I don't know, 12 or 13 years now. I mean, it's been a long time. And we have a great relationship. So could you give us the once over on basically what people should be thinking and how they can get started with some future planning? Because I think that everybody needs to understand this topic and at least have a cursory overview of what they need to consider and how they might begin.
Yes, and so your anecdotal response was you saw about roughly 80% of the people you talk with not doing it. Studies tell us that 60 to 70% of American adults haven't done even basic planning. So first of all, I'm not here to shame anybody. If you're in that category, you're in good company, right? So the vast majority of Americans haven't done it. I'm embarrassed to say my own plan is woefully out of date. It's sufficient.
Bill, come on, man! Don't you know a guy?
I know a guy, right? So,
yeah.
But the old cobbler's kids have no shoes sort of syndrome. We keep talking about it, but so mine's adequate. Mine will stay out of probate court, so I've taken those steps. And so to me, doing good planning is an act of good stewardship. It's an act of love for those you care about. I don't want to leave my family a mess. I want my plan to say, when I'm gone, to the extent anybody knows my plan, I want them to say what was important and what was valuable to me. So, Bill Gustoff really cared about his family. He left things in good shape. He didn't leave them a mess to clean up. Bill Gustoff took care of his family. He didn't leave them in destitution and poverty, paying lawyers way too many fees, those darn lawyers, too many fees to clean up a mess that the family could have used those assets. I cared about some causes. There are some charitable things in our estate plan. I want that to speak about what I cared about. So just different things that we include in our plan, but we want our plan done well. We want to do it well, and I think most of the members of Iowa Firearms Coalition, we like things done well.
Yeah.
So that's why we're tidy on these things. That's why we're talking about things like NFA trust, and whether you should have them on a separate video. But on your planning, at the very least, this is the quick. I do seminars and this sort of stuff. But the very quick thing is, if you're 18 or over in this country, you need at least to have powers of attorney. You've named somebody who can make your decisions for you on healthcare issues and personal issues, or healthcare power of attorney, or financial issues. If you hit your head, I make the jokes. I promise, if you talk with me, we laugh about death and taxes. That's what we try to do, and because that's why people don't want to deal with it. But so if I hit my head and spill my proverbial marbles on the pavement, my wife has my power of attorney to make all those healthcare decisions.
Right.
It keeps me accountable to my wife, because she could be administering electroshock therapies at that point. So making sure I'm nice to my wife. She has all the authority to handle things with the real estate, with bank accounts, whatever she needs to do, at least without having to go get a guardianship and a conservatorship and start spending minimum of $3 to $5 to get a guardianship or conservatorship established over you because of the processes we have to go through. I would love to say I could do it for $1,200. It can't happen. There are just too many hearings and notices and proceedings I have to go through, and it's going to cost. It costs not just me. There are other attorneys involved in the thing. So it just takes a lot of money, and then it's an annual reporting. We can avoid that. Simple powers of attorney. Great Christmas gift. We're doing this in December. It happens to be, I might want to date this, but any time of gift, birthday, whatever. The joke in my family is when a niece, a nephew, or a kid turns 18, it's happy birthday from Uncle Bill. Here's your power of attorney. Reading a name. So, and I don't know if they value that gift, but they're getting a gift worth, a couple hundred or a few $100s of documents that will make sure that their parents don't have to go to the courthouse and get its guardianship over them if something happens to them. So that's basic planning. Easy documents. There are forms available that you can download. Again, do that at your own peril and your own risk. It's better than nothing, but it's not legal counsel. Then beyond that, if you have children, that's what drives a lot of people to get their wills done. I have children, and I want to name who's going to be the guardians of my kids if something happens to me. Or we start having assets. The legislature, we have 2 legislators currently in our law firm, and they like to tinker with the probate code, and they don't know what they're doing sometimes. And so when they tinker with the probate code, they may be changing my default will that I had with the state, and I may not even know it. I want to be in charge of who gets what, where, when, and how, and all those things. I want to be in charge of who's taking charge of my assets after I'm gone, and who's in charge of my children, not leaving it to my family members to come in and fight over. And especially if, those family members who think that you have more money than you do, they like to come in and fight about why they should be the guardian of your kids, not somebody else. And it's not always about your kids. So just making sure you leave an orderly method of instructions.
Sure.
Otherwise, you're relying on the legislature and what it said in its probate code and what the judge is going to apply of that law. And most of the time, it'll probably go the way you wanted, but not always. And then as you get more assets in life, you don't like this idea, this probate proceeding that you have to go through. There are ways to avoid that, and the most common one is use this thing called a revocable living trust. So I said revocable, totally changeable. You give up no control. You are in control of this thing. Living, meaning you make it while you're alive rather than putting something in your will that says, when I'm gone, put things in trust for my kids. This is you saying, I'm creating a trust now for my assets, but I'm also the one in charge of it because I'm not only the grantor who creates this trust, I'm the trustee. I have hats on. I'm the trustee who's in charge of the trust. And I'm not only the trustee in charge of the trust, I'm the beneficiary to benefit from the trust. So I have one of these things, where my wife and I, we're not wealthy folks. We have 4 kids. Our kids, they eat, break, and wear everything that I can possibly make, it seems like. So, but I have one of these things with my wife, and I make the joke that, I woke up today and I hit snooze on an alarm clock I don't own because I've transferred that little thing to my trust with a certain document. I got dressed in clothes that I don't own, drove to work in a car that I don't own, left a house that I don't own. I work here for a firm that's owned, my portion's owned by a corporation that I don't own. So I really don't own much of anything in my name. And if I go in the ditch on the way home, my wife not only has the power of attorney, but everything's pretty much in a trust. So she doesn't need to go to the courthouse to determine if she has authority to handle assets for me. If instead of going in the ditch and becoming disabled, I die, she doesn't have to go through the probate court to transfer things, or if we're both gone, our kids don't have to go through probate court to transfer things that are intended for their benefit. And ultimately, it's not in my pecuniary interest to tell you this, because I'd be better off probating your estate and collecting, a 2% fee on the value of your assets. There's some work to be done. It'll cost, some thousands or a few $1,000s or $1 to $2, $3, whatever $1,000 depending on your state to do some things. But it won't cost $10,000 and $20,000 just to get, simple assets transferred because of an entire probate process.
Right.
So that's my urge on estate planning in a nutshell. And there are people who will talk to you. A lot of attorneys will talk to you. Well, we offer a free consultation on that. We schedule time. It's going to take an hour, maybe up to 2, depending on your questions. It's a no obligation sort of thing. At least that's the way we do them so far. And then we tell you a flat fee on most planning, saying if you're going to do this kind of planning, it costs you this level. If you want this other kind, it's why. So
just for everybody's edification, I can speak to this personally. My mom and dad used Bill and his firm for their future planning. And that's exactly what we experienced. Mom and Dad wanted my brother and my sister and I to participate. We went in and sat down and met, and it was a situation where Bill grabbed a legal pad, and there were some niceties and some getting to know you, and then he got right down to business. And there were things like, what do you have? Where do you have it? Where are you now? And where do you want to be? And then Bill built out a recommendation, if you will, and had it sent to my folks. Say, okay, here's what we've got. Here's what you're talking about. This is the associated cost. If you want to take the next step, then here's how we do it. And that gave my mom and dad a great deal of comfort. I believe and I know that they had a great deal of, as I say, comfort, but ease with the process, and I like that. And so they're well kept, and I'm very happy about that. So as somebody who has gone through this process as a bystander with you and your firm and has witnessed some of these things, I can tell you it was pretty darn easy. I deal with a lot of lawyers, some of them not very good, but is this where I put in the lawyer joke, or do we edit that out?
Go for it.
No, but seriously, I was really happy with what you guys provided for my folks, and they were too. And so I would encourage people, listen, it's not some scary thing. You're not going to sit down with most people. I mean, granted, there's a few lawyers out there, just like in every profession, that are probably below average or don't have the greatest people skills. But most people, whether it's Bill or those beyond that are dealing with future planning, usually are able to do that well and communicate well. So I don't want people to be afraid of the process. And I think that you've done a really good job of kind of lining that out for folks so that they have an idea of what they can choose and how they can choose it and why. I mean, I went to college with a young man, super guy. I knew him relatively well, and he was estranged from his family, and he literally married a woman who was an orphan, and they made their way. I mean, they blazed their own trail. If I remember right, she was a dentist, and I can't remember what he ultimately ended up doing, but it was he worked for himself. It was his own business, and they had a couple kids, you know, so they've got these their own small businesses. And I can't remember what road that somebody came across the line on. It was somewhere in northern Iowa, and unfortunately they were both killed. And so no future planning. Kids went into the system because there wasn't any family. It's my understanding they went to a really nice foster family and were adopted, so they were well taken care of. But the state, I assume, did a fair job, but they came in and chopped everything up and sold it off and took care of it all, and it just made me sick, not only for their loss, the little kids' loss, and the fact that my friends were gone, but the idea that all this work and this perseverance went into something that was, you know, chopped up and sold away or whatever else. And it was a genuine Greek tragedy when you think back on it. So when I have people come in here and they ask me these questions, or they solicit IFC and say, hey, can you help me with this? Or I have this, what do you think? I find myself saying, man, you really need to sit down and think about this and get with the right people so that you can make some good decisions, because I have to believe, and I believe I can quantify, and I know that you can, that a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 on the front end is wait 20 years and then see what it costs to get it all straightened out at the time. And that's just money. That's got nothing to do with the fact that you're gone, and there's a tremendous emotion associated with somebody's passing, and then the hassle associated with trying to get a day off work while you're trying to handle this estate, going to the courthouse and screwing around to find out, oh, I got to come back, and oh, by the way, the next available time that all of our schedules jive is 4 months from now, and the can gets kicked down the road for weeks or months, and then you got all these bills piling up with this stuff, and nothing's tied off or handled, again, on top of the emotional drain and the passion that you're putting into somebody's loss. And I tell you, it's a perfect storm to make you a believer that you should handle these things on the front end. So those were some of the things that drove me to want to do this video. And I knew that you were well qualified, Bill, as your demonstrated work for us over the years at Iowa Firearms Coalition. So I wanted to talk with you about it so we could share it with our membership.
To be fair, I'm part of a community of, there are a lot of good, well-qualified attorneys.
Yeah.
We have the one thing about practicing law in Iowa is it's generally a very collegial atmosphere of people. Yeah. So if you have an attorney with whom you have a relationship, just ask him or her about these things. Yes, Yes, I love to market. Yes, I love to help people, but we're far from the only ones who can do this and who can do a very good job at doing this kind of work for somebody. So
All right.
just be, at least be asking the questions. So
I agree. Well, I tell you, these are the things that I wanted to cover today. I really believe that again that they were necessary and they were helpful for our membership and beyond. Again, Bill Gustoff, managing partner with Hagenow Gustoff, and I will put a link actually in the description of this video back to your firm, and so you can help some people if they seek you out. Anything in passing, or excuse me, in parting, that we need to touch on before we go today?
yeah, so we're a small firm, which means we try to keep our costs. So as Michael knows from having sent people, contacting my assistant is the best way to get on my schedule, for example. So, and to being persistent, we're a small firm, so if we have somebody out sick with kids, it's okay. It's okay to be a squeaky wheel with us. We encourage that with people to
Okay.
squeak and make sure they've gotten that on our schedule. So we know our weaknesses, but
You should be careful what you ask for.
yes.
So,
a nice squeaky wheel. So.
There you go. Be persevering in your pursuit of Bill. Okay. So I think that'll wrap it up. Again, Bill, thank you for your work. Thank you for basically your volunteerism and your help on behalf of IFC, and we certainly appreciate it. So thank you, everybody. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you again.
Thank you.